The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
But when you see 5 engines on a boat going about 65 miles an hour, loaded up with white powder in silver cases, generally speaking, that's not a good sign.
President Trump defending escalating strikes on alleged drug boats in the Caribbean as his administration ramps up efforts to take back America from cartels.
We will not allow this kind of illicit activity to happen, not only at the national sporting level, but also where it hides in La Cosa Nostra.
A massive mafia-linked sports rigging and gambling scandal busted by the feds. An NBA coach and player are under arrest. Why it's being called the most brazen sports corruption scheme since online betting became legal in America. And the winter holidays are quickly approaching. Just how much are Americans expected to spend this year, and will it be a new record? Good evening. I'm Taylor Murray. Welcome to the National News Desk, America's News Now. You're taking a look at the White House, where President Trump held a law enforcement roundtable late this afternoon with a strong focus on treating cartels as a core security threat.
Along with transnational gangs, these groups have unleashed more bloodshed and killing on American soil than all other terrorist groups combined. These are the worst of the worst. It should now be clear to the entire world that the cartels are the ISIS of the Western Hemisphere.
President Trump was asked by a reporter if he would ask Congress for a declaration of war against cartels, and he said this.
Well, I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay? We're going to kill them. You know, they're going to be like dead.
Also heavily talked about during the roundtable, the U.S. military took out another suspected drug-running boat on the Pacific Ocean side of South America late last night. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth posting this video on X of the strike, saying 3 individuals were killed. Now, he also called these alleged narco-terrorists the Al-Qaeda of our hemisphere and said they will not escape justice. He doubled down defending the recent strike today.
Every boat we strike is 25,000 Americans whose lives are saved because of the drugs that were headed in our direction.
Meanwhile, President Trump is pausing a plan to surge federal agents to San Francisco after a conversation with the city's mayor. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt points to it as an example of the president being willing to work with leaders across both sides of the aisle to clean up U.S. cities.
And he heard from the mayor last night, who told him that he is going to earnestly try to make his city better on his own. The president heard him out. He said, okay, I'll give you a chance. We'll be watching, and if you need us, we are here. And if I feel as though you continue to fail your citizens, the federal government may have to step in.
The plan to send federal agents to San Francisco had been met with criticism from city and state officials who voiced concern over the tactics used by some immigration officials. California Governor Gavin Newsom had threatened to sue if troops were sent to the city. Now, the Trump administration has already deployed federal resources to several cities, of course, including Washington, D.C., Memphis, and Chicago. The Department of Homeland Security has issued a detainer for an illegal alien, Jashawn Preet Singh, who was arrested on Tuesday for vehicular manslaughter in San Bernardino County in California. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed the Department of Transportation is also investigating how he received his license.
Yes, I can confirm that California gave this individual a license, and it is something that the Department of Transportation has already looked into.
Leavitt saying Singh was driving a semi-truck under the influence of drugs and then caused an 8-vehicle crash that ended with the death of 3 individuals. She also says he illegally crossed the southern border from Mexico in 2022 and was released into the country by the Biden administration. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is thanking President Trump for the new sanctions the U.S. is putting on Russia's 2 largest oil companies. The news followed the cancellation of that meeting between Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Budapest. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar has the latest details of these new sanctions and why they weren't imposed sooner.
9 months into his second term and more than 3.5 years into Russia's invasion of Ukraine, President Trump issuing sanctions on Russian oil giants Lukoil, Rosneft, and their subsidiaries.
Look, these are tremendous sanctions. These are very big.
Together, the companies account for about half of Russia's crude oil exports. The sanctions are intended to suppress the stream of revenue Russian President Vladimir Putin uses to fund his invasion. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte believes it will deliver a blow at an already vulnerable time for the Russians.
The Russian economy is in a difficult situation. We know we have these long lines into gasoline stations all over Russia.
Russia calling the sanctions counterproductive. The Biden administration, concerned about a shock in global supply sending prices higher, had already imposed sanctions targeting Russia's energy sector, including some restrictions on Lukoil and Rosneft. These new sanctions essentially ban banks and insurers from doing business with them.
I just felt it was time. We've waited a long time.
Indeed, the president has spent most of his term delaying decisive action.
I have my own deadline, and we want it to be fast. We're going to find out whether or not he's tapping us along or not. And if he is, we'll respond a little bit differently, but it'll take about a week and a half, 2 weeks. I'm going to make a new deadline of about 10 or 12 days from today.
With the sanctions in place, what comes next?
We hope that they won't be on for long. We hope that the war will be settled.
Though plans to meet with Putin in Budapest are derailed, Trump leaving the door open.
It didn't feel like we were going to get to the place we have to get, so I canceled it, but we'll do it in the future.
Both Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky directly weighing in on the sanctions. Putin says no self-respecting country ever does anything under pressure. Zelensky says the sanctions send a message that aggression will not go unanswered. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Israel today, meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just hours after Vice President J.D. Vance left the country following a two-day visit. Secretary Rubio says both Israel and Hamas are respecting the U.S. brokered ceasefire, and they look to build on that.
We feel confident and positive about the progress that's being made. We're clear-eyed about the challenges, too. But the president has made this a top priority.
But before the vice president left Israel, he told reporters he was sort of confused by the Israeli parliament's preliminary vote in support of annexing the West Bank.
Somebody told me that it was a political stunt, that it had no practical significance. It was purely symbolic. I mean, look, if it was a political stunt, it was a very stupid political stunt, and I personally take some insult to it. The West Bank is not going to be annexed by Israel. The policy of the Trump administration is that the West Bank will not be annexed by Israel.
Now, President Donald Trump told Time magazine he has made assurances to Arab countries in the region against annexation, and that if Israel did follow through, they would lose U.S. support. But the bill is ultimately unlikely to pass and become law. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the vote a deliberate political provocation by the opposition party, and his majority party is against its adoption. A man accused of taking part in the October 7th attack in Israel has been living in Louisiana, now accused of lying on his visa application to get legal status. Tonight, critics say it's a blatant example of national security threats falling through the cracks. Here's national correspondent Christine Frizzell.
Mahmoud Amin al-Muqtadi is accused of direct involvement in the October 7th attack in Israel that killed more than 1,200 people and set off a brutal and bloody war in Gaza. This lengthy FBI criminal complaint details audio recordings of the suspect planning and organizing the attack, as well as various photos, including him holding military weapons and pictured with the former head of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar.
What does it say, though, that somebody with involvement in this horrible, deadly massacre on October 7th could, a couple years later be living in the United States?
It just underscores that the previous administration had a get-to-yes posture. I want to make it clear. I don't have a get-to-yes posture. I don't have a get-to-no posture. I have a get-to-the-right answer that is in the interest of the United States.
Al-Muqtadi pleaded not guilty in a Louisiana court Wednesday to conspiracy to supporting a terror organization and misuse of visa permits.
He lied on his visa form, saying he was not part of terrorism when allegedly he was part of a massacre at a kibbutz that killed 69 innocents, including 4 Americans.
Senator Tom Cotton sending this letter asking the Department of Homeland Security to audit all visas issued through high-risk countries since 2021. when Joe Biden took office, prioritizing potential affiliations with Hamas or other terrorist groups. More concerning with new reports of a resurgence of the Islamic State in Syria and warnings of terrorists living and working in Venezuela.
I have seen from the Venezuelan opposition a database of more than 10,400 people that were given Venezuelan passports who were Syrian, Lebanese, or Iranian citizens up to 2019.
He also says some of those individuals made their way to the United States. And a lot of people think that since that time, many more have as part of the CHNV parole program under the Biden administration that granted parole to people from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. Taylor?
Christine, with this case, as with so many others, it seems like a lack of vetting is to blame. Any plan to address this?
Yeah, in some ways, changes have already been made. Director Ed Lowe told me a big thing they've really stepped up is social media vetting, taking a close look at social media postings, also being even more stringent on those with visas from other countries. This could make an already long and arduous process even longer.
In Washington, D.C., Christine Frizzell, thank you. Syracuse University is the latest school to reject President Trump's higher education compact. The proposal was sent to a handful of schools on October 1st. It offers them advantages in funding, visa approvals, and even tax breaks if they agree to certain policies like not considering race, gender, or financial status in admissions. The University of Texas Austin is still considering the White House's offer. Some students say accepting it could limit free speech and threaten faculty jobs. Students marched across campus this week, calling on UT Austin leaders to reject the compact.
It's not educational for educational purposes. It's purely ideological. It's conservative. It's conservatism coming down from Trump and through Abbott that is basically trying to turn our university into a playground for their policies.
The university has not given a timeline for making a decision. Well, police in Florida are searching for the thieves responsible for a sneaker heist at a mall in Jensen Beach.
We had a burglary that we discovered yesterday that appears to be right out of Mission Impossible.
The Martin County Sheriff says a crew sliced through the mall's concrete roof, broke into the Champ Sports store below, and stole roughly 400 to 500 pairs of high-end sneakers. Investigators say the thieves even took time to bag and tag the merchandise before leaving in a getaway car. Coming up, the high-profile arrest made in a multi-state gambling operation allegedly involving the NBA, poker, and the mafia. Then new pushback against mounting criticism of the White House ballroom project. Why the administration says the East Wing had to be torn down. Also on the way, new insight into the growing problem of national debt, now beyond $38 trillion. We're back in 90 seconds. Scandal rocks the NBA with several former and current players and coaches arrested in a federal sports betting probe. The FBI uncovering a massive sports rigging and gambling operation allegedly linked to several mafia crime families.
Individuals such as Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier were taken into custody today. Former, current NBA players and coaches.
FBI Director Kash Patel today sharing some of the most high-profile arrests among more than 30 people arrested in this criminal operation. Chauncey Billups is the Portland Trailblazers head coach and NBA Hall of Famer. Terry Rozier is a current Miami Heat guard, and Damon Jones is a former NBA player and assistant coach. Well, Patel says the criminal operation spanned the course of years across 11 states, and the alleged fraud was highly lucrative, believed to be tens of millions of dollars. He shared more about the suspected mafia link.
Not only did we crack into the fraud that these perpetrators committed on the grand stage of the NBA, but we also entered and executed a system of justice against La Cosa Nostra to include the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese crime families.
So let's break down what we know about the investigation that led to the indictments. A U.S. attorney on the probe says there are two major operations at the center of the scandal. One centered on illegal betting on various NBA games, and another revolving around underground poker games. So in one scheme, investigators say inside information was used to place bets on NBA games, leading to the perpetrators profiting on gambling. The non-public information used included details about whether specific players would be sitting out of future games or when they plan to pull themselves out early for purported injuries and illnesses. Now, the other scheme allegedly used high-tech cheating technology to rig underground poker games, and this was across the country. Investigators say this included custom shuffling machines that could actually read the order of cards, barcoded decks, hidden cameras built into tables and light fixtures, and even special contact lenses and eyeglasses that could read pre-marked cards.
The scheme targeted victims known as, quote, fish, who were often lured to participate in these rigged games by the chance to play alongside former professional athletes who were known as, quote, face cards. What the victims, the fish, didn't know is that everybody else at the poker game, from the dealer to the players, including the face cards, were in on the scam.
Investigators accuse the NBA's Chauncey Billups and Damon Jones of being face cards for these rigged games to make them appear legitimate to victims. And they believe the games in the New York area were backed by the mafia. Miami Heat's Terry Rozier allegedly helped confidants profit from prop bets on his games by voluntarily pulling himself out of contest due to injury. Now, the NBA is speaking out in a statement today saying they are in the process of reviewing the federal indictments and that Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups are being placed on immediate leave from their teams. The NBA goes on to say, quote, "We take these allegations with the utmost seriousness, and the integrity of our game remains our top priority." In other news now, we are now in the thick of the 23rd day of the federal government shutdown. Today, Democrats voted down a new bill to pay essential government workers while they are required to work without pay. 3 Democrats did support the measure, including Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman, who has supported every funding bill. Majority Leader Thune actually opposed the bill for procedural reasons. In the White House briefing today, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt pushed back against that criticism of the East Wing demolition to make way for the construction of the new White House ballroom. President Trump initially said the project would not interfere with the existing White House structure, but Leavitt says the plans were updated.
The plans changed when the president heard counsel from the architects and the construction companies who said that in order for this East Wing to be modern and beautiful for many, many years to come, for it to be a truly strong and stable structure, this phase 1 that we're now in was necessary.
Now, the administration initially put the estimated cost of the ballroom project at around $200 million. Leavitt now says that number is $300 million, but emphasizes it's being funded by the president and private donors at no cost to taxpayers. Home sales are starting to come back from the nearly 30-year low they hit last year. The National Association of Realtors says existing home sales increased 1.5% from August to September. That amounts to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of just over 4 million units, the highest since February. Mortgage rates have been declining since July, reaching an average of 6.19% last week, and this is according to Freddie Mac. Now, consumer spending is expected to reach another milestone this holiday season. According to the National Retail Federation, shoppers intend to spend at least $890 per person on average. It's the second highest amount and falls just below the record $901 spent in 2024. Most plan to shop before the holiday season starts in November. Over 6 million eggs are recalled because of possible salmonella. FDA officials say the Black Sheep Egg Company issued the recall after 7 salmonella strains showed up in testing. The eggs were sent to retailers and wholesalers across the nation under various brand names, and no related illnesses have been reported. Consumers should return the eggs to a store for a refund. We've got more details at thenationaldesk.com. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we start in Ohio about a warning about a surge in carfentanil cases.
Most importantly, especially with the whole carfentanil situation, we always carry with Narcan.
The red love bug stocked and ready to roll throughout Columbus.
We're out there at 7, 8, 9. 10 o'clock at night.
You're in the streets, literally.
In the streets, and this is when the overdoses are happening.
The goal is to prevent overdose deaths and provide essentials, with Esther Flores behind the wheel. Flores founded the organization One Divine Line to Health to help save lives. On this night, when she drives around Linden and the north and south sides of Columbus, she says she'll alert women about the Attorney General's new warning. Dave Yost tells us there's an increase in carfentanil cases in Ohio this year.
Well, festive furry friends are spreading positivity in West Virginia. Therapy dogs dressed in Halloween costumes visited young patients, families, and staff at CAMC Women and Children's Hospital. Employees say these seasonal visits aren't just fun, they're a way to lift spirits and bring the community together.
We always come together around the holidays just to do things for each other and for our kids here that we're caring for, just to brighten the spirits and deliver some happiness throughout the hospital.
My dog Anchor is a therapy dog, so I love this story. Hospital staff say about 10 therapy dogs joined in on the fun. There was also staff pumpkin decorating to make the Halloween celebration even sweeter. Coming up, the troubling sign buried in new national debt data just released by the Treasury Department right after this. New numbers out this week from the Treasury Department show the United States is adding to its national debt faster than ever before. National correspondent Matt Galka has more on the growing problem.
It's a record-breaking number that fiscal watchdogs are not celebrating. The United States debt surpassed $38 trillion, with the tab piling up even as the government is in the middle of a shutdown.
The problem with this national debt record is that we just keep on breaking it.
Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget President Maya McGuinness called the number appalling and said lawmakers are debating the wrong priorities as they try to figure out how to reopen the government.
The crazy thing here is that the only ask on the table is, can we spend more and borrow more? There's a $1.5 trillion request for additional health care policies, none of which would be paid for.
Another troubling sign is just how fast the $38 trillion line was crossed. The U.S. had just hit $37 trillion in gross national debt in August. The $1 trillion jump in 2 months was the fastest accumulation of debt outside of COVID. The Bipartisan Policy Center says this isn't a Republican or a Democrat problem, it's everyone's problem, with no end in sight.
Right now, the government is shut down. And while some people around the country may think that that actually saves money because we're not paying for certain things, ultimately it actually costs us money because we end up paying just later for all the things that we would have done during this period.
The fastest growing part of the debt isn't even spending that goes towards American life, according to the Peter G. Peterson Foundation. It's paying the interest on existing debt. The country spent $4 trillion on interest over the past 10 years, but is expected to